This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and happy St. Patrick's Month, as we are well into March. The day that this podcast comes out is, in fact, the great feast of St. Patrick. Shamefully, I'm aware I'm not wearing green, but nevertheless, we are going to talk about St. Patrick, and we are also going to cover the dicey topic of, is there a secular case for being pro-life? And there is disagreement at this table, and somebody who just lives a very disagreeable life in general, and his overall presence is my co-host, and that is Mr. Steve Carlin.
Speaking of which, I believe earlier this year on the podcast, I said that I would give St. Patrick's Day a try. So how ought I celebrate it today and tonight?
It's very simple. Very simple, because you're like nothing. You just came from nothing, right? You have no like real European heritage. You're just kind of like a mutt. Me and
I don't know if I'd say that.
We love your grandpa, obviously, because he saved us from the Nazis. But besides him, but there's no like, we're Polish and we go to the Polish festival.
Correct.
Okay. Or we're Brits and we love England, or you're just kind of like typical Wisconsin. So all of my great grandparents came from Ireland except for one.
Okay.
He was a Polish cowboy bootlegger. God rest his soul, my great grandpappy. As Mom says, we don't really talk about him. And I'm like, I talk about him.
You ought to, yeah.
He's the best. He's a bootlegger. I was like, cool. Had to hide out in California.
I have some criminal ancestry as well.
It's really remarkable. Well, my granny, who is from him, her maiden name was Reed. She married a Doyle, hence the Irish part. And my middle name is Doyle, my mom's maiden name. But my grandpa's name on my granny's side was Reed. And I'm like, that's not Polish. And it was something no one on earth could ever pronounce. So he changed it because he was hiding from the feds.
Excellent.
For bootlegging. Yeah, it's just, I tell you, nothing was more fulfilling in my life, in the pro-life movement, than when we had our European conference in Poland in February, which, by the way, if you want a really cheap way to do things, go to Poland in February. And I told that story about who he was, and every Pole came up to me afterwards and says, that was so Polish. Like, that's the most Polish thing I've ever heard in my life. So Heather is also here.
I almost forgot I was here.
What's your heritage?
German mostly, and Czech.
Well, that's why you get those comments that we just got. I didn't know I was here. Mein Kampf. Well, German's a good heritage. That's Mary Lisa's family. Great food, great beer, great history besides, the obvious part. As they say in Germany, Hitler ruined everything. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. Although they were always kind of violent and the Germanic tribes were always causing problems. So I take that back. Okay, here's what you do, Steve. First off, go to Mass if you're Catholic. You still Catholic?
Yes.
Go to Mass. Celebrate the feast of St. Patrick. So I'm not a disillusioned Irishman. So I believe the shortest book in the world is an Irish cookbook. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and brag on all these traditional. You can get corned beef if you want. You can do all that.
I do not want.
Okay. You should probably eat what y'all eat anyways, which is some kind of. You could do lamb. Do lamb. Because they eat a lot of lamb in Ireland. But otherwise, like a roast and a potato, like mashed potatoes and carrots and like bread and Guinness. St. Patrick's Day, I would say, as far as cuisine, is probably more liquid than solid.
Okay.
So, have a Jameson. If you like the Bailey's Irish cream. I don't really like the Bailey's Irish cream. It's too sweet. You pour it on ice cream, put it in coffee. Jameson is excellent. The Irish monks, of course, invented whiskey. And the key to the reason Irish whiskey is so smooth, which is original whiskey, of course, in America, it's bourbon, but they remove all the smoke. So the Scots came along and said that's stupid. People love smoke, and they left the smoke in, and that's where we get Scotch,
Okay.
which of course is better than whiskey. But so that was the only thing good that the Scots ever did, was leave the smoke in and create Scotch. So, but as a result, taste-wise, Scotch is better, but just smooth. If you don't really like whiskey, Jameson and Irish whiskey is very, very smooth. Have a Guinness.
Okay, so mass meat with root vegetables and then drink something Irish.
Very
Simple as that?
Put on the High Kings. Write this down, High Kings. Or the Wolf Tones. If you want a little bit of blowing up cars and our, IRA action, they celebrated in their early days. They tamed over time and started singing about peace. But the music wasn't as good as when they were, calling on people to die in Ireland who disagreed with them. But the Wolf Tones are excellent. I would say they are the Irish CCR.
Okay.
Creedence Clearwater Revival.
How about that band that we saw one time, like 10 or 15 years ago, which is Irish folk rock, and even though it seemed happy, the singer was angry and called everybody in the audience effers the entire
Yes.
night.
So the whole thing, there's two extremes, and this is what you want, okay? There can only be two extremes on whether Irish music is good. So you have the guy on the stage with the fiddle, and he's got about 29 empty Guinness glasses in front of him. And he treats everybody like you're his grandson. He's great. One-man band, fiddle, he sings, he's awesome. Or they're just very angry at you, and they're insulting the audience. Those are where you're going to get your two best forms of Irish music. Any in-between, no use
All
for
or
those
nothing.
people. Yeah.
Right.
The High Kings, if you do want family-friendly, the High Kings are awesome. And they tour in America. They're very popular. I mean, they're big on Spotify and stuff. But the High Kings, all their music is awesome. It's very, very good. They redo the old classics. They have new stuff. They'll make you laugh. They'll make you cry. They have fast songs. They have slow songs. So very, very good.
Great. I will look forward to it. And I'm also glad to hear that the angry guy who swore at us all night is still in the category of good, because I enjoyed that experience.
He was phenomenal. And that was just random. That we were celebrating. Actually, that's when this place closed. Planned Parenthood closed, and we had our big rally.
Oh, this was at O'Bannon's?
This was at O'Bannon's.
Here? Oh.
God bless them. Yeah. And so Steve and somebody gave me tickets to the A&M game, and we still had Johnny Manziel. So Steve is like giddy. Like, we're going, Planned Parenthood closed. We're going to a college football game. Like, things are happening. So we're with my brother-in-laws.
This is 13 years.
Your father-in-law was there?
My father-in-law came. And so we took we took him to the Chicken so that he could experience the great Dixie Chicken Cowboy Bar, which we highly recommend for those of you who visit College Station. Then we took him to O'Bannon's, which is a great Irish, and that opened after I was out of college, very tragically. So that was kind of I didn't really get to go there in college. And O'Bannon's had a random Irish band in there, and they were phenomenal, and we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. So yes.
Thinking about those guys has me in the spirit, even though I've been Mr. I'm not Irish, I don't care. Like I'm feeling it now.
And I'm going to go a little deeper before we get into our topic with why you should celebrate St. Patrick's Day and all this. Number one, Catholic, but also just Christian heritage of missionaries. I mean, he goes to Ireland. Most places can't track, why do you believe what you believe? Like, who brought you the gospel? And the Irish can. It's St. Patrick. It's pretty cool. Just like Our Lady of Guadalupe for Mexico. So St. Patrick, Christian missionary, Ireland's totally pagan. It's totally a disaster, and he converts everybody. That's why they say he drove the snakes out. The snakes was like sin and paganism, not actual snakes, because it's too cold. So besides that part, you really should celebrate. St. Patrick's Day is a very fun, wholesome holiday with little kids.
Okay.
They get into it. They want to dress up. They need to wear green. I know you and I aren't wearing green. Heather is.
I'm the only, the German.
The Germans always organize. The Irish, they're too drunk to realize it's St. Patrick's Day. They forget to wear green. So yeah, she's on it.
Totally sober.
Why are we drinking water bottles?
I don't know. This is stupid because we have to record more podcasts after this. So, but yeah, producer John, he looks like he's drinking over there. Yeah, next to all that equipment. That's wonderful.
Half in the bag.
Half in the bag. Yeah, that's right. Who are you to judge? But we put on music. The kids dress up. Of course, the kids' schools do stuff. And my kids went to public school, the older ones, when they were really little, and we just moved here. We had a great little public school. Don't write letters condemning me to hell. But their public school in Texas celebrated St. Patrick's. It was really, really kind of cool. So put the music on, read the little St. Patrick's Day books. They're great. And EWTN has a great St. Patrick's Day cartoon, which is really funny. Unless you're a druid.
Okay.
They're the pagan, like, Pharisees of Ireland, the druids, and they are kind of mocked in the cartoon.
There's an excellent Lutheran St. Patrick cartoon.
Oh, yes.
Even the
Patrick.
Even the Lutherans do a good job with St. Patrick. So, yeah.
Great apologist video explaining the heresies of comparing, what is it, the Trinity to the clover. And
yeah, the Trinity and the clover, all that happened. The three-leaf clover is the Trinity. The other thing with St. Patrick that kind of gets lost is he just had guts. I'll use that term.
Yeah.
But we don't have any guts anymore. We're a bunch of wusses. And he just went to this island. His parents are rich. He leaves. He could have had an easy, comfortable life, runs away, becomes a missionary, becomes a bishop. Just awesome. On the super outskirts of the Roman Empire, like, you know, where why do you even care about those people in the first place? It's just a great story.
Did he convert Ireland with dialogue?
He did. He did. It was really unbelievable. He had teamed up. There was the PR firm that did the George Floyd 2020 stuff. They actually represented St. Patrick back in the day. That's how they got their start.
Ooh,
Big Big Patrick guys. So I think he went into Ireland with no justice, no peace.
Okay.
It just went from there. And so
Need a dialogue, I think.
he needed to. It's important that we have the conversation.
Yeah.
Was I think what he initially said to the druids. It's just ridiculous. Please write in with your great St. Patrick's Day traditions at podcast@40daysforlife.com, podcast@40daysforlife.com. So, yeah, I love St. Patrick's Day. We've celebrated it my entire life, so it's all good, nostalgic energy for me. And I have been to Dublin, and I have been to New York, and pre the gays ruining New York was better.
Oh, interesting.
It was.
The parade and everything?
Yeah, it's kind of part of me. I was surprised because I went to Dublin afterwards and I was like, this is it, baby. This is going to be awesome. And it was, but it's just a different feeling. And you realize Americans do everything better, number one. And it's so over the top. And for me, it was cool because my great-grandparents did come to New York, which is why I still have family in New York.
Okay.
And so that part was cool. But it's just, I mean, it's down Fifth Avenue. It's awesome. When I went, it was 2005. This is like pre 40 Days for Life and all that. But I got to march in the parade with the NYPD.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I got tickets. You have to get tickets to Mass because it's like high demand at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. So it was really, really cool. So St. Patrick's Day in New York is definitely awesome. I've heard Chicago is awesome. I know you don't like Chicago.
I've done St. Patrick's Day in Chicago, though. When we lived there, we saw the river dyed green and all of that.
Pretty cool.
It was fine.
Did you see Richard Kimball run through the parade? He was running from Tommy Lee Jones.
No, that would have made it awesome.
We've talked about this on the podcast before. You've seen The Fugitive, right?
I have.
What's cool about that is they decided they just filmed that spontaneously in the parade. They did handheld cameras and followed Harrison Ford. So when you watch the movie knowing that, the parade, they don't know what's happening. So when people look up, they're looking at Harrison Ford going, you know, holy smokes, that's Harrison Ford. And in the movie, it works because it's Richard Kimball.
Yeah.
And so it looks like in the parade, they recognize him. And as a viewer, you're like, oh, no, they're going to see him.
Cool.
And it is cool. It's cool the way they did that. But they actually just interrupted the parade with the cameras and had Harrison Ford walk through it.
I haven't seen that movie in so long. I didn't remember that scene. So.
That's a good St. Patrick's Day movie.
Okay. All right.
As is Braveheart.
Fugitive.
You want to watch Mel Gibson kill some Brits in the wonderful Spirit?
Wait, but he was Scottish.
He was Scottish, but back then, if
you hate
if
the English,
Brits
it's
are
not.
dying, it's all a good thing.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, that was when the Scots and the Irish were united, which they really show the movie on. But Scotland totally folded and gave up their religion and government and everything else, their dignity. But yeah, that's a great Leap Year is the best Ireland movie, I think, with what's her face, Amy Adams, and John Lithgow, and the other guy. So, Leap Year is the most accurate. Like, that is Ireland in the country. It's hysterical, cute movie, great with kids. All right, switching gears to Steve's intense topic. Is there a secular case for life? I say yes. You say you're not going to reveal your position. You're going to do the thing where we're guessing.
No, I don't think there is, but I'm very intrigued because before we started recording, you said, you didn't take philosophy, did you? I'm going to smoke you. And then, I know what you're probably going to do. So I'm very intrigued by the lawnmower I'm about to run into. The wood chipper.
Wood chipper, Fargo's a good movie. Here's the deal. I'm going to be very condescending to you during this by going through your stupid little outline so that we can get to the conclusions that the audience probably knows that we're going to arrive at. So we will go through the outline because, number one, it's very well laid out. Number two, I don't think you think I'm going to say what I'm going to say. So
I don't know what you're going to say.
I know it.
Mystery.
Maybe I don't either. We'll see.
The question is, will they ever say it? Are we
Will
gonna
we
get to
say
it?
it? We are going to get to it. We are going to get to it. Okay, here comes this is why we need the Germans.
This is why the Germans
Mary
here.
Lisa's from a German family. She's like, will you shut up and just get some stuff done? Okay. Where does the value of human life come from?
Certainly not a higher power.
Okay, so there's your first God card.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one.
Created in the image and likeness of God to know and to love God and to serve God and to be loved by God.
But you could have no clue of that, and you still help take care of your baby sister.
Yes.
Because we've got a society that's been founded on thousands of years of biblical history.
And also,
They don't know that.
it's within us.
I'm doing the random tribe in Africa argument.
It is. We are built with that.
It is within our
Innately,
nature.
Yes.
Wait. So there's two different ways I think you go on this. We should just throw out the stupid outline.
It's okay if I call it stupid. You can't call it stupid. You're right.
But that's the case. But it's not the case in all cultures. A lot of cultures have done terrible things. They don't take care of their young. They sacrifice them.
Yes.
Yeah, but even secular cultures look at those cultures and say that's bad. Some of them do it in the name of religion.
The secular cultures are just drawing on religion, is my position.
Or you could justify human sacrifice only by religion, as the Aztecs did.
So okay.
Because the Planned Parenthood secularist is like, what are you talking about? Religion's not the solution. Look at the Aztecs. These people were crazy.
It was a false demonic religion.
And all the cults.
They didn't know that.
The religious
They
cults
should
too.
have.
They should have. They should have recycled is what they should have done. Now we have pollution. I mean, they should have. You can't do that.
But that still doesn't answer the question, where does the value of human life come from? You can say people in all these cultures allegedly are taking care of their young.
Are we headed towards use? This may be a short podcast.
Yeah.
Which then the listener would
Doubtful.
be depressed. They know it because it's on their little timer. We don't know how long it's going to be, but they can look at their phone right now or their radio and just see it.
They don't know if 45 minutes of it is like, and now Steve's criminal.
It's just dead air to mess with people. So are you gonna do the thing? And I've done it before in conversation where you're like, if there's no God, what do we care about abortion? And why can't we just shoot a kindergartner?
I am weird. This is why we should just throw out the outline, is because I'm going straight to the end. I am in agreement with the Dostoevsky quote that if there is no God, all things are lawful.
Okay.
All things are permissible.
Yeah.
I think he says permissible.
There's different translations, but each one of them.
Scholars debate about
Yeah,
the translation.
Yeah. It's San Diego.
But permissible to me is what I've always known it to be.
Okay.
I'm not going
I prefer that one.
Me too. I think it's more powerful because it's just permissible. You can do it. Not lawful is a powerful word because there's a lot of things that are lawful but aren't
Sure.
moral and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But permissible
Yeah.
is like, sure, bro, do
Yeah.
it. Here's the issue with that is that we have to get rid of spa completely. We have to get rid of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Because the classics, they were, if you had to pin them down and were honest, they were pious agnostics, right? They didn't know, but they were very moral based on ethics. They just didn't know. They believed the book. They couldn't figure out who in the world the author was.
Sure.
So what you're casting to hell, I think, is the journey to truth. And the journey to truth 100% of the time starts with secularism. Now, your point is like, yeah, but it doesn't end there. Yeah, but you can get pretty deep into the red zone and be pretty close and not declare that God exists and you're giving your life to him. And that's my issue with the everything comes from God. And it does, and we know that, and that's what we believe. But there are plenty of atheists that can make an ethical argument of why abortion is wrong. They can't make the ultimate one of why it's really wrong as far as a mortal sin.
Yeah.
What is their argument, though, then? And frankly, what would Aristotle's argument have been?
Aristotle would have talked about the dignity of the human person.
Right, but who cares? Why? Where's that dignity come from? Like, I guess that's where you say it
We
comes
just
down to
know
the
it.
ultimate, but
I don't know.
it's axiomatic.
But his answer, because Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, particularly Socrates and Aristotle, were extremely humble men. So you were not going to be able to come in here and be like, oh, where does that end, old man? Because he's going to say, I don't know. That's what I'm on a journey. But I know there is something. I know I'm not an elk.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not a cockroach. And I know I can reason. And the reason I want to reason is to achieve the ultimate height. And the ultimate height is justice, which is Plato's Republic. Plato's Republic is just a book about justice. And it's actually the basis of Western civilization we didn't have the complete Bible, obviously. But justice is the highest form, and humans are the only ones that have a sense of justice. And you can be a complete atheist. In fact, most atheists are arguing from a standpoint of justice, which is why in the world would a God punish a 6-year-old who gets cancer? That's an evil. That's not just. And justice is the highest thing that we have as humans, so we didn't come from God. We came from something else.
That's interesting. So Aristotle, they're saying, so this is essentially Aristotle and Socrates and Plato. They are worshiping what Paul talks about, the unknown God.
Sure,
Okay.
100%. And what I'm saying is the reason I think your mindset is dangerous, among many other reasons, is that it doesn't allow the full miracle of God, which is creating us in a way where we can get to him without him through our intellect. We can't ultimately get all the way there. Obviously, everything is by the grace of God.
Sure.
But that reason is inevitably going to get you to faith. It's going to get you like 80% of the way there, and then you have to believe. This is why everybody's pissed off at Jordan Peterson, yeah. Because he's reasonable and he either doesn't have the courage, he doesn't believe it, he's putting on a show, he's weak, he's whatever. It could be a good reason or a bad one. Or selfish, according to Heather, who can read souls.
I'm just.
But
That's what some people say.
But it's like, as my mom would say, something or get off the pot. And so that has to. That's very uniquely human. That we can have this sense of something is out there. I don't know what it is. So the question, while you're doing that, right? There was no burning bush. Billy Graham didn't come to my door. I don't know what's out there, but I'm on a journey to get there. In the meantime, I know you can't do certain things morally.
Okay, so the case is we know life has dignity, but we don't know why. Is it that simple?
No, I don't even know if we don't know why. I don't think we know its ultimate source.
Okay.
Some that would be the atheist or the person who's not evangelized or the person who. There's another category of atheists, which is probably most of them these days, which is my granny was Catholic and she beat me and I hate the church. And they're just it's a personal thing and they've got to they're starting from a harder place. There's abuse, there's scandal or something.
Yeah.
So, but because when we sat down for the audience's sake is when I saw the title, is there a secular case for life? My argument was yes.
Right.
We can go home. But it's good that we talked this out. But the secular case for life for most people is life begins at conception, and that's not because of the Bible or the Pope or Billy Graham. It's because of science, and that's not what we're saying. The scientific reality, which is what we do in What to Say When,
right,
and teaching people how to have secular conversations is great. This is the big picture of why can't you kill a baby if there's no God? And I'm telling you, that is there are very ethical, moral, and I would say even pious atheists and agnostics that are against that. And that are against abortion, that it would be against adultery, that would be against stealing somebody's money on the internet, those and I think the blanket, it all comes back to God, is not enough. I think that there are a lot of evils in the world that people can pinpoint as evil, even though they won't acknowledge the source.
I guess I understand where you're coming from. I find it somewhat unsatisfying. You described the humility of the Greek philosophers in that they knew it, but they weren't willing to say what it was. They just knew it was out there, and they knew the limits of their own knowledge.
It's not that they weren't willing to say what it was. It's that they actually didn't know what it was.
Okay. Yes. But in some ways, I wonder if that's saying the same thing.
But what they were rejecting is more significant. What they were rejecting is multiple gods, which was the belief at the time.
Sure.
So they are going against the current.
Yeah.
They just can't get up and say, in Jesus' name.
Right.
Because they don't have access to that information.
So did they have any more substance to, obviously they weren't talking about abortion, right? But the whole concept of morality, was there any more substance to it other than we just know?
Well, if you read them. No, I'm not saying it like that. I'm sorry. If you knew how to read, which you don't, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying almost critical to them. If you read them, it looks like morality and ethics are God.
Okay.
That's what it looks like. And so we would come along and be like, you know the rules, but you haven't imagined that there's a rule maker.
Yeah.
And that was because they were very countercultural. Sleeping with multiple women and all the craziness that was going on during that time was just normal. And they knew that there was something wrong with that. That's not the way you were supposed to live. And it was all in pursuit of justice.
I have a friend who is very learned and reads Greek and all this sort of thing, and it's his opinion, don't anybody email about this, but it's his opinion that there must have been some element of divine revelation in the brilliance of the Greek philosophers.
100%.
Okay.
100%. I think so. And that's, look at St. Thomas Aquinas just takes Aristotle and uses Christ to show how he was foreshadowing all of this, and he just didn't know it. And Christ is the fulfillment of the ultimate justice, which is being the perfect victim, the lamb led to the slaughter to save us from our sins. And so what was unjust to the world was complete justice for eternity and for souls around the world and in the future. And so Thomas Aquinas definitely saw it. All the great philosophers of the church saw it.
Okay.
It was great. And it's sad that we don't study them anymore. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how brilliant they are and how good they are and how bad they make our society look. That's why
we don't study them.
Typical of a atheist American today, I would say your outline's 100% right.
Sure.
Because we live in a different time period and it's differently. But in the traditional sense, it's wrong.
So this is a case where I guess it's not surprising, but you could make the case for morality without God better than the actual atheists are doing. This is like the problem with the new atheist is they're assuming a lot of things, but you're saying, okay, this is the last 30-year phenomenon, but that's you go beyond that and there's more depth to the atheist moral arguments.
Right. Well, the problem is atheists got dumber over time. So did we.
Sure.
Like, we're not good philosophers where our language is watered down. We speak in phrases. We're all guilty of it, but we don't talk like we did 500 years ago, and we certainly don't have that sense of awe and wonder that we did 500 years ago. Some people do, like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. Like, I think our technology is the only thing, ironically, is that maybe we can do that, but like going to Mars, who would ever explore that 300 years ago? But what we don't do is ponder our role in the world and why we were made, or our existence, or what is the point of justice, or what's good or what's evil. We don't do those things, and the ancients always did it. Even if you were poor and dumb, you did it. You had a sense of natural law.
And we have a lot of modern distractions.
We do. No, I'm not I think the problem is today, that which is old is dumb and outdated, and that which is new is good.
Yeah.
And then there's also the extreme opposite of that, which is everything in modernity is awful, and we need to go back to the 8th century. And all the people that say that don't want to do that because
you're not
primarily of air conditioning.
yeah, exactly.
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics, a toilet. You gonna go out in the desert and do your business? I don't think so. You see a rattlesnake.
Just watch me.
Yeah, I want to go back to olden times and all that. And I'm like, we like beards made a comeback. I like beards. I have a beard, but it's not.
Jim Gaffigan has a bit on that. Like, we spent most of our society living outside.
Living outside.
Why are we going camping?
Why are we going
Why
camping?
are we going back to that?
This is natural, man. So, but everybody that says that, like if you say, hey, for your honeymoon, we're putting you in a Ritz-Carlton, they're like, this is awesome. It's not like they're like, hey, we wanted a tent in the middle of a cornfield. So no, it is. It's we appreciate the nice things too. But yeah, the atheists should argue from Socrates and Aristotle. They more often now don't.
Because at least Aristotle and Socrates, they're still operating from a framework that is not strictly materialist.
Correct. And that's a very good point. And they are humble and not angry. Today's atheists, most of the time, are angry. They're angry at their parents. They're angry at God. They're angry at the nun who hit them on the hand with the rosary, which they probably deserved. They're angry at all that stuff. Of course, we're describing the boomers. But they're mad about all that. But they don't realize the anger is a distraction to get to the truth of whether God is real or whether he's fake.
Yeah.
And that's what the atheists today think about themselves. And ancient philosophers never thought about themselves. They were only seeking truth or goodness or justice again. And this is very clear in the Republic because you can read a lot of Socrates. It's all dialogue. He's just asking questions.
Yep.
And he's brilliant, and he's funny, and he's cute, and then it really gets old, and you need to move on to the point, and Plato does that.
Okay.
So he's like picture Chesterton with like 5 gin and tonics in him.
All right.
That's Socrates. You're like, this is awesome. I could listen to you all day. And then 2 hours later, you're like, okay, we've already said that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
We need to know what this actually leads to, and that's Plato's Republic.
I suspect a lot of the lack of intellectual substance to the new atheists is sort of rooted in Darwinism, because they kind of use Darwinism to suggest that there's nothing but matter.
Right.
And I guess you've convinced me, and we're only like 35 minutes into the show right now.
We can quit.
But I do think if So this is not me trying to save face here, but I would say I think there's no purely materialist case for life. And right now, most atheists, I believe, are materialists. There's nothing more than the physical world.
Well, I would agree with that, but I would probably take your argument and light it on fire and say it would go the opposite, and you would be able to justify eugenics and why. Not that abortion is maybe needed, but why it should be required and implemented more than it even is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think once you get into the materialistic atheism, we're killing some folks, baby. Like society,
and starting with ourselves,
and you're gonna thank us for it. By the way, and that. Even like Jean-Paul Sartre, who was the French atheist who wrote about life experience in his uplifting book called Nausea, which is how he described human existence, he wouldn't have gone for that.
Okay.
He was not like a eugenicist, like this is awful, we need to kill people. He couldn't explain why they're suffering, and he just rejected that God exists. But he would have never been like, actively saying we need to rid out those who, even though his writings contributed to other people eventually doing that, he himself was more like pie in the sky. I don't think God exists because there's bad things in the world.
Okay, a little more mom's basement.
A little more mom's basement. But in no way would the ancients have thought we need to, because they were questioning everything, and so they would have, that's the great irony. They would have never gone for the Darwin stuff. They'd have been, oh, wait a second. Okay, so we come from these roaches and stuff. So they would have just asked a billion questions. We didn't do that. Darwin was like instantly the father of modern science and a genius right off the bat. I mean, even the questions about Darwinism are recent, like from the last 20 years, the big questions. But yeah, the ancients just wouldn't have like fallen for that.
Well, they were able to make the distinction between science and philosophy. I think that's a big part of it. The atheists these days, they don't know the difference, and I don't think they think it's relevant. Like, we've got a quote here from Atheist Alliance International. Atheists can base their values soundly on reason and science. The same tools that have been used with spectacular success to discover the physical world can be used to understand the moral realm. We can be moral without gods. And it's something like maybe it's half and half. You can use reason, as the ancient philosophers do, reason to arrive at a conclusion about the natural moral law. But science, to me, doesn't really seem like it would have much to say about the question.
Well, I won't speak for Socrates, but if I would try, the notion that you would be moral without God, he would say, but why would you want to be? Mm-hmm. Why would you want to be moral without the gods? Like, he would have connected it, but he wouldn't have believed in like the God of Abraham because he didn't know he existed.
Sure.
But he would have thought, who separates gods from morality? That's what the Greeks were doing. That's why they thought they were all nuts. They're like, you believe in the gods, but you don't believe in justice. So they started the marriage of faith and reason. And this guy is saying, no, we're going to prove, this is just being mad at God, we're going to prove we can be moral without God. And Socrates would have been like, there's a God? Well, then we should just do whatever he says is moral.
Sure.
Because clearly you're not God.
Because clearly you're not God.
Because this is where there's perhaps a temptation here to say, okay, so Sean has convinced me that there is a secular case for life or for morality in general. Oh gosh, what if the new atheists got wise to this? Well, that would require them to start asking some of the hard and substantive questions, which would then ergo lead them to God.
100%.
Okay.
Which is why they're like, well, what if Aristotle exists today, bro? I don't know why he always has that voice, but he does.
And they would start thinking about themselves more from a stance of humility rather than thinking about themselves self-servingly.
But if we do the time machine thing where we bring people, like we could explain a frozen pizza, right? Mm-hmm. And it would take we'd spend hours, what the freezer is and all that. But really what would happen is you would just bring Socrates and Plato and Aristotle into your kitchen. You would open the freezer. You would get the frozen pizza out. You would put it in the oven. 20 minutes later, you would get it out. You would cut them a slice, and they would eat it. And they'd be like, that's awesome. I understand everything. And the same would be is if they came here. You would hand them the Summa by St. Thomas Aquinas. They would go in your basement, they would read it, and they would convert to Catholicism or following John the Baptist around.
So we've got a
producer John the Baptist, not the original, not the OG. I like the OG, the new one, not so much.
So there's a pro-life atheist named Sarah Terzo who is kind of addressing this question of how you can have morality and why you can be pro-life without believing in God. And she says, the golden rule, the philosophical rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. She's citing this. She says, treat others the way you want to be treated. In my mind, a better basis for morality cannot be found, and it is not unique to Christianity. There is a version of the golden rule in nearly every modern religion. Something about the golden rule makes it almost universal. And when I read that, I'm starting to think about St. Paul in Romans talking about how the law is engraved on our hearts.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
And so that's sort of, they may not, when you said they know the law without the lawmaker, the law is engraved on their hearts. They're just not really sure who put it there.
They're not sure who put it there. Exactly. Now, this could be turned into a 5-part philosophical podcast, and we won't do that. But we do the opposite. So we have the ancient Greeks who are basically pursuing truth, therefore pursuing God, realizing what goodness is. And goodness is truth, okay? And through that, they have good ethics, good morals, and they're trying to live moral lives, but they don't really have the motivation for God. That was basically they have morals, and they're chasing God, and they want to marry the two, okay? What we did, modernity, is screw this up in the Enlightenment. And we had it made in the Middle Ages. I'll just say it's in the emails. But we had Christendom, which was the widespread acceptance of God, of morality, and of what was happening. And then we had just the upheaval of the Renaissance and the Reformation, and that led into the Enlightenment. And the philosophers of the Enlightenment did the opposite of Socrates, which is to divorce morality from God. And this all boils down to people wanting to have sex. There's a funny phrase.
Without consequences.
There's a funny phrase I can tell you later that an Irish priest told me this. But this is, if it gives me pleasure and if it gives another person pleasure, how could it be wrong? And so I won't name all the names, but for sure Descartes and Immanuel Kant, who I'm not a fan of, who was very brilliant and very dangerous. Bishop Berkeley, who was a total disaster. He was not a Catholic bishop. I won't name his religion, but it came from England. And this was your goal in life is to not offend anybody and get the most pleasure out of your life while giving the most pleasure to others that you can. And what's wrong with that?
Yikes.
Right. And that is the Enlightenment. What does Peter Kreeft call it? The Great Darkening, or something like that. But those philosophers are how we got here.
Sure.
My modern philosophy class at A&M, which they worshipped, all these guys, was the most depressing thing ever because of just what you would hear people say, as if it were just a good thing. And, they were not good. Tommy Hobbes, a bad guy. But yeah. And a lot of the stuff from him, they wrote some good stuff, and we ripped off a lot of stuff for the founding of our country. But the divorce of religion and morality, because we were sprinting towards this new secularism, which is humanism, secular humanism, where we, by golly, can do anything. We're going to invent electricity. We've got trains. We've got better guns. We're going to take over the world. There is no limit for man. Gosh, if we could just get rid of all this ancient morality, garbage. And a lot of it ties into anti-Catholicism, but that's not really fair to Protestants because there were a lot of faithful Protestant leaders that were speaking out against this stuff, knowing that it was a total mess. But those modern philosophers were just horrible. And they did the opposite of what the ancients did, which is, the problem with religion is all the morality. And you're like, what?
Right.
So
there's no hope in a lot of that. Like, wasn't Hobbes the one who said life is nasty, brutish, and short?
Yes.
I think he said that. Yeah. It's like that's completely lacking hope.
no, Nietzsche's in there. I mean, he kind of gets known like, I don't think we're supposed to like Nietzsche, but he's definitely in there with all those guys. He was respected. I just don't think he aged well. For some reason, the Christians started beating up on him more than everybody else.
Yeah.
But his quote, "God is dead,"
God's not dead.
God's not dead.
He is surely alive.
So but the rest of the sentence is what gets left out, which is then the Christians killed him. And that's his sort of bitter argument that you didn't believe this, so you didn't live it. So I don't believe it. So I'm going to go wild. And I added the wild part. But I think we should do a podcast. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before. We need to do a breakdown of the modern philosophers because the listener's not going to go read them, probably, nor should they unless they're way into it. But just a basic, the architects of the culture of death.
Yeah.
My only issue with that book is they don't get into the philosophical part of it. They get into the obvious one, which is like Darwin and Hitler and Sanger and, all of these people. But they don't. Nietzsche's in there, I think. I think he's in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But Descartes is bad. Descartes,
he's kind of
he's the father
root of all this.
He is the father of modern philosophy officially. Is Descartes, René Descartes, and it all starts with "I think, therefore I am," which is the dumbest, most psychotic statement ever said ever, and that's very dangerous. The phrase might as well be "I'm God,"
because that sort of invited people to this radical skepticism where now you have to prove everything to know that anything can be real.
Which you can't prove. So Descartes' whole point is the only thing I know is that I doubt. That's impossible because you would have to doubt that.
Right.
It just goes in a circle. And so it's just garbage. And the atheists went hog wild for it. And weak, far, I don't know, I don't know how they would phrase it, but John the Baptist would say super liberal Protestantism went for it big time, which is why you can have whatever.
There's no such thing as objectivism.
There's no objective truth. You just make it up as you go, and Jesus is just going to comply with how great your religion is done in his name. And but there's definitely the ripping of morality.
And this is, I think, where this is not really necessarily abortion or pro-life related, but
it is because...
Well, what I was about to say.
I know, but sorry, you sparked something because what all of this is designed to do in the spiritual realm is to remove sin.
Yes.
You cannot have sin when you're an expert in the modern philosophers. They completely remove that.
And I think that leads to you're walking through the bookstore or the grocery store or the airport and the newsstand is like, are we really just a hologram? That stuff is very popular right now. Is there a multiverse?
Yeah.
The birds, there's no such thing as real birds.
Yeah.
That go along with that.
Well, in the skepticism's a great start and a horrible ending. And I don't think that I think that this is something I fear even as a dad and raising our kids in the AI realm, but you have this generation that came through COVID and, Epstein and all this stuff. And it's like the they gets blown out of the proportion and we have to trust people. That's what I really don't like the conspiracy theorist people. And I don't like people that dabble in it. Like, do we really know? I don't live like that. I trust when I go into the car wash that at the end, I'm not going to be shot, Right. Like I send, I mail my taxes and you have to trust certain things or you're always going to be let down or you really don't believe in God. You don't believe that there's any good in the world. You don't believe that anybody does what they actually say that they're going to do. And I just think that we can acknowledge and believe a big presence of sin in the world without saying you can't trust anything. You can't trust any government. You can't trust, and I think that can get out of hand. And America has, for centuries, had a lot of lunatics living in the woods waiting for the government to come and take them. And it just never happens. And you just waste your life.
That you know of.
That you know of. And it's one of those, you need to be prepared for an emergency. You can't live in an emergency. And so, but I can be a very naive person at times. But I do think I'm a trusting person to a healthy degree. And I know a lot of people that don't trust anything ever to an unhealthy degree. And that will impact your relationships, and it will impact your relationship with God.
Well, it makes you the arbiter over everything because you can't trust anybody. So I decide. I decide what's sin. I decide what's not sin. I decide what's truth. I decide what's not truth. And I don't think you can maintain a cohesive society like that.
Well, that's why we have all the clashing that we do in society right now. Not that it's ever been perfect, but
let's take the COVID shot. Let's take a real topic.
Here we go.
This is funny, and I've said this before. We sat down in the break room here. This is like the height of COVID, 2020. And Haywood sits next to me, and he's like, no. We're talking with some of the IT guys. And I was like, this is cool. They're like rushing the vaccine. I said this. I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like, we may be able to get it like in the fall. Because I got a flu shot, and I trust medicine. I never thought, like, I can't get a flu shot because I'm going to die or whatever. I had no issues with vaccines whatsoever. And so I was like, that's just pretty impressive. Frankly, a lot of people said that back then because Trump was the one pushing it.
Yes,
so
he was.
It was
Yes,
like
he was.
the vaccine was great with the conservatives when Trump was doing it. Then it was evil when Biden did it. And so we have to be fair. But I was like, oh, yeah, that's going to be great. Like, we can get the vaccine, then we don't have to worry about COVID or whatever. I was like, I've literally haven't gotten the flu in 30 years.
I would have rolled my eyes so hard at you sitting in that room
Yeah.
if I was in that room.
I know. And I think they were. I think the IT guys were like, we got to go work somewhere else now. And so Haywood walks in, and one of them's like, I was like, Haywood, you're going to get the vaccine, like, when it comes out. He throws down this, like, binder, and he's like, are you crazy? Like, he just yells at me. He's like, no way. Do you know what those have to go through? And I'm like, no. He's like, you know how they test it? I was like, no. He's like, do you know how long it takes? I'm like, no. I just think it's like, how do we get drugs? Like, they just send it off to a lab at the Mayo Clinic, and this guy's like, oh, we're good to go. I thought it was a simple process. And so he's like, there's no way I would get that. And that really opened my eyes.
Interesting.
I was like, wow. He's the doctor, right? He's supposed to trust all this stuff. But it was really interesting. And then, of course, there's no way I was getting the jab. Now I don't even get a flu shot and, all that stuff. And the jab was bad. It messed some people up. It didn't do what they said it was going to do. We understand if you had to get it, it's not like the worst thing in the world and it's not the end of the world, and to each his own. But there were huge issues with it because it was rushed and all of that, and everybody.
It was not as pristine and pure as it was led to be.
No, and if you just forget the 18-year-olds playing soccer having heart attacks, let's just ignore all that stuff. But you can't spread it, you can't get it, all the nonsense that they told us. So if you just, I forget where I was going at that, but if you take that alone, of just. Wow, I was an idiot and I was really wrong on that. I would still, like, if I feel bad, I'm still going to go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And I'm not spending months on the internet researching how bad the COVID vaccines are.
Yeah.
And people do that. And that is a waste of your life. I didn't take it. I don't want my kids to take it. I'm not going to take it. I'm fine. I haven't gotten sick. Great, moving on. But I'm not like dwelling over the internet for hours. And you can take the 9/11 truthers, you can take all these other, but the fundamental part of just starting with skepticism and never getting away from it always leads to relativism and moral relativism, that you never end up at any kind of objective truth because you don't believe objective truth exists, and the ancients did.
This is like National Treasure. This is why the dad got so mad at him.
Huh.
And that's a terrible
Just
movie.
leads to another question and another clue and another question and another clue.
Well, when we do our modern philosophy podcast, we will be attacking National Treasure and our little Freemason buddies. Yeah, the Freemasons. Don't get me started.
Well, as we wrap up,
Let's wrap up.
I have, you've convinced me there's a secular case for life, and I would like to acknowledge that by quoting the great Happy Gilmore. You were right. I was wrong. You're smart. I'm stupid. You're good looking. I am not attractive. He's a modern philosopher.
Did you see this out? For sure. Did you see the second one?
No, because it's only on Netflix, right?
Yeah, same here. We didn't get to see it, so I don't. Oh, maybe it'll come on Amazon or something.
I wasn't enthused enough about the first one to be like, I have to see the second one.
Okay, here's why you need to do it. I understand because I liked it, but I wasn't like Steve. who,
Right.
Like,
And I don't
watching-
want him beating up Bob Barker again or whoever the equivalent of that
awesome.
is today.
And
I love
Apollo's in
Paul
it,
Barker.
right? Apollo, he's in it again.
Apollo.
Okay.
Who died? Poor guy. Carl Weathers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl Weathers. He died. He made Happy Gilmore 2, and then poor guy died. Yeah. He's always going to be Apollo.
What a
though.
way to go, though.
Gosh, it's terrible.
The magnum opus.
The reason you need to see it is because anytime they dip back into the 90s when this country was good and pure and wholesome,
Sure.
and they
Nothing going on.
they
Nothing
do a
wrong.
nod to our generation, you have to
Okay.
support it financially and
okay.
with your time.
Self-indulgence.
Yes, i.e. Top Gun 2.
Yes.
Please send us your questions or comments on this at podcast@40daysforlife.com. We will be sure, maybe a little summer modern philosophy 101 will take people through. It'll make the Architects of the Culture of Death podcast look like Disneyland. So we will be sure to do that and prep that for you. Please rate, review, and share this podcast, and we will see you next time. God bless you.